Hi, I'm Chris Hansen from KarateUnity. I travel, train, and teach all over the world. I cross-train with others because I believe that no style is the best, as you can always learn and improve on something. It's important to embrace similarities and learn from our differences. I also speak with amazing people to gain insight into the martial arts. Meet Sifu Milos Drakulic, traditional WingChun and Arnis instructor with a sharp eye for what really works. His close-quarter approach blends precision, pressure, and practicality. It's raw, it's real, and it speaks the same language we do at KarateUnity. Function over flash, and movement that makes sense. Let's jump in. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris Hansen from KarateUnity, your host. Our content focuses on cross-training and other arts and combat sports to make your base art better. We have today a very special guest, Milos Drakulic, Chief Instructor and owner from My VLMA Martial Arts Center. VLMA stands for Vitality Lifestyle in the Martial Arts. He's got 4 schools across different areas: the USA, Plantation area in Florida, Berlin, Potsdam, Germany. His approach is a holistic one, focusing on fitness, self-defense, and character building. From my understanding, he has 2 streams of curriculum, Wing Chun and Eskrima, and he does a whole lot of other things. I want to thank Ilan and Ricky from In The House Productions for setting all this up. So thank you, guys. Without further ado, Sifu, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me, and a big shout out to Ilan, Inside Fighting, and my dear friend Ricky from In The House Productions. And thank you very much for being my host today.
Yes. So I got drawn to you simply because I love Wing Chun. When I started training, I started training when I was 10 years old. I got bullied a lot, and I got pushed into a karate school from my dad. After maybe 4 or 5 years into the game, I started to really appreciate, crashing in center line, trapping, and all these things. And I started falling in love with Wing Chun, buying all these books. Praying Mantis also was another love of mine. You probably know all these Sifus and heard of these guys.
Nice collection.
Yeah, there's this guy here. And you're a big Eskrima guy, and I love Eskrima too. So I've studied with this man when he came to Toronto, Bobby Tawada. I'm sure you know who this man
Bobby
is.
Tawada, of course.
Yeah, and one of my favorite books was this one. And I've read all of these books. I've studied, I've trained with different guys, and I love what you're doing. So
Thank you.
If you could tell us about yourself, your schools, your background, and anywhere you'd like to start, please.
Okay, then the best thing, I'm gonna start in my childhood. So I'm Serbian heritage, so my parents are Serbian. Back then, we were all living in Yugoslavia, but then the Civil War happened. Everyone knows the story, or should know the story. So my parents moved to Germany as guest workers in '68, and my mom gave birth to me at 1972. So my brother and I, we basically grew up in Berlin, Germany, as good Berlin boys. So back in the day, we were the second generation growing up of guest workers or immigrants, how you might call it. And my brother and I, we were badly bullied for 6 years in our life. Very, very vicious and bad things happened to us, from peeing on our bread. We had to eat this in front of these teenagers, and we're all 6 to 8 years older than we were. It started when I was 6, my brother was 7. And they intimidated us pretty easily because they told us they're going to kill my brother if we tell someone.
Ooh.
So that's why I know exactly now, from my reflection as an adult, when I started to teach kids, how easy it is to push kids, or to influence kids, to bribe kids, or to blackmail kids. That's why a lot of parents have the problem: my kid is not telling me anything at home, because it is very easy to intimidate a kid with some threat or some so-called deals.
Yeah.
So this is what happened to us. And my father, he was starting to teach us martial arts when we were kids, but the basic stuff. And some of the good stuff he did with us, whenever we went to a park, it was not just playing soccer. It was always racing against each other, wrestling against each other, climbing on trees, coming down from trees, throwing a big stone over our shoulders, or big wooden logs, So all
Functional
this,
fitness. Yeah.
yeah. So this was our basic training.
Yeah.
Every time when we went out by ourselves, we were playing soccer with friends. With my father, we never had this kind of nice walk, what family have. No, it was always connected to a task. So that's what we pretty much knew when our dad took us out. It's going to be work time.
It's going to be work.
And yes, and my father is a black belt owner for jiu-jitsu, full contact, karate, and kickboxing since 1981, first dan. And
Kyokushin or what style?
no, he did not Kyokushin. Back then, he learned in Germany from the great George F. Bruckner. He had the biggest martial arts center throughout Germany, and was in Berlin located. He had more than 1,500 students.
Shotokan? Shotokan or
Shotokan, and then, but he was always a guy who liked connections and combinations. So he was teaching basically Shotokan, but he brought stuff in from the Kyokushin Kai style and all this kind of stuff.
I like that.
So my father learned. He joined seminars of Joe Louis, Alda Gascos, Benny the Jack Orquides. So all these guys impacted him when he went to seminars.
Yeah, those are good guys.
My father always had a hard mindset. What people talk today about mindset, and because he grew up in poverty, so he was pushed around, kicked around, whatever it is, and that's why he started to do some more martial arts. And when he went to Germany, and then he stopped the bullying process after 6 years, because there was something that happened to my brother and me. They have in Germany, you have these little stinky bombs, and there were these stinky bombs releasing them on our heads. So we were stinking like a skunk.
Yeah.
And then we had to tell my father what was going on. And then he took care of these guys, and he stopped it for good. No police, no one would ever do something about that, but he stopped it for good. So this is where I realized, of course, we have rules and laws in this world, especially in the Western world. We are rules and law based, but as long as not someone who feels you, who is dedicated or has dedicated his life to you like a real parent, is not taking care of you, no one's going to stop anything that comes to you by bullying, whatever it is. So as a kid, you're always weak. You're not confident. Okay. So you have to have someone who steps up for you. And this is how I realized as a kid very early how important it is to have someone who steps up for you, who stands behind you, who is able or willing to take any risk to take you out from a very bad situation. And then I learned, the more I learned about martial arts, that martial arts were built against evil, that people try to become strong to stand up for weaker people or for themselves. And that's the that's the core idea of martial arts. And this is why I fell in love so much with martial arts. So that was my goal. Of course, Bruce Lee was a big motivation.
Yeah.
Mutual understanding and feeling was my experience.
Yeah, I love that story. We share something similar. I grew up in Toronto here, born and raised here in Toronto. I'm a 60s baby. I'm 56. I was born in 1968. Yeah, in a nutshell, I mean, I won't talk too much about me. It's all about you today, but I just wanted to share. We have similar backgrounds. Like growing up in the 60s here in Toronto, it was very white Canadian based. There's not a lot of Asians and Southeast Asians. I have a Chinese, Filipino, and Indian background in me. And my name is actually Hansen, but it was anglicized. We were forced, my ancestors from India, we had to get our name changed because of the British rule. But anyway, I was bullied like crazy. The school, the kids didn't know what a Chinese person was. And I was bullied for everything. My dad put me in martial arts. And I'm telling you, I really appreciate your story, because having a strong figure to stand up for you makes a big difference. Because, you know, in this world now, everyone takes advantage of each other, right? And I want to dig deep into what you do at your schools and stuff. Like I really like what you're doing with the kids, with the young generation, and character building and all that. And just reflecting, it's really cool that your dad did a practical type of Shotokan, because I have a lot of friends in the Shotokan world, and you know, I mean, being an experienced instructor, Shotokan, even like Wing Chun, has its limits, right? They very static kind of techniques, right? So I'd like to know if we could talk about your dad a bit, like what caused him to say go towards say guys like Joe Louis and you know these practical guys. Like I love Alca de Cascos's work too, but
Yeah,
yeah. So what caused your dad to do this?
because George F. Bruckner, who was the owner of the academy where he was training, he was a very practical guy too. But my
Uh,
dad he knew from his background from the homeland how important it is to fight yourself into life because he grew up in poverty. He got beat up by his own uncles. So he understood how important it is that you have to be able to fight yourself into life and
yeah,
through life.
yeah,
So for him, it was then that coming to Germany and not knowing the language pretty well and having kids there, creating a family, he was more going there to be able to take a little bit more care of his temper. For him, it was more to canalize and disciplinize himself more because fighting for him was mutual. Someone got something wrong, or what we learned from my dad is ever in my life who called me for a dance, I never skipped the invitation.
hmm
Okay.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah,
never will. So that's
yeah,
how I grew up. Okay. So,
yeah,
but my dad went there and he learned, and this is what he was teaching us. Having a temper is what you're born with, but
yeah,
martial arts can give you the capability to canalize it better or to take care of it in a stressful situation. So for him, when he saw that Shotokan karate, as you said, was more back then in Germany, tournament based
yes.
sports.
Point comité. Yeah,
Yes. And he loved to have this real experience. That's why the full contact kickboxing in this academy, he joined this too. So he had his black belt in that too. And this is why he was dedicated to that, because he said that's why he loved back then when I went to Kyokushinkai, and Kyokushinkai, the translation is the ultimate truth. And he loved the name of the style because it is what it is. If someone challenges you in real life, we don't talk about a challenge sparring or a sports tournament. Real life challenges are very different. And I think we're going to talk about this,
yeah,
what the difference is about a real life occurrences, circumstances, or a sports tournament. It doesn't matter how hardcore, full contact you might call it. Okay.
yeah,
And that's why he went there and he saw these guys who were able to bring something to the table for him that he can learn and evaluate more on his techniques. And he was not a big kicker, but then he learned to fall in love to how to kick and to kick higher and better, be more flexible. So for him, it was more to be able to use your body as a tool for the right
yeah,
purposes. Then
yes,
learn fighting, because fighting you learn through fighting. It doesn't matter if a
yeah.
dude from the ghetto is fighting every day, he knows what fighting is. So you don't have to teach him fighting, but you can teach him a different approach of using your body as tools or skills.
Love it. Attribute development. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I love this, man. Is your dad still alive?
He's still alive. He's still alive. He's still alive. He's now, he's born 1941.
Okay, yeah, close to my
Yeah,
dad's age. Yeah.
yeah,
80,
yeah,
82, 83, or something like that.
yeah. He's 83
Yeah.
now. Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And he's in good
So
health still?
he's, yeah, it's going a little bit down. He's moving slower, and he
Yeah,
has some health issues, but it is what it is. So,
yeah,
but anyway, he still has this spirit. He still
yeah,
has the spirit. He's an old man, but he has the
yeah,
spirit. And see, so for me, seeing my dad aging is just seeing a line getting old.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
seeing a human being getting to a specific age. It's a line seeing getting old, and that's what drive my brother and me all the time to stand up as a line. So, and
Yeah,
I will not say as a leader, because people misconcept what leadership nowadays is. Okay,
yeah,
a line has responsibilities for himself and for the things he believes in, for his territory, for the pride, and that's more a feeling what you have, and that's how I feel as the head of my schools, of the family I created in martial arts.
Awesome. Shout out to our dads. Thanks to our dads for getting us here, man. I tell my dad all the time, like my dad, he's so proud. I'm sure your dad's proud of you too, seeing your YouTube channel, and he probably takes links and sends all his friends. Look at my son. Look at his videos. Did you see the video lately? See, your laugh is the same because my dad does that too. Every time I go visit my parents, I'll see my neighbors outside and they go, "Hey, your dad's been showing all your videos to me," you know what I mean? Yeah, but shout out to our dads, man.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so let's talk about your training background. So I'm gonna guess from the way you move, you've got a whole slew of backgrounds. Like I see, because for you to like in your videos, you talk about all kinds of solutions. You talk about knife combatives. You talk about how to deal with a grappler, anti-grappling techniques. You talk about trapping to striking, how to deal with a boxer, how to deal with a kicker, all this kind of stuff. So in order to do all that and be legit, and I know you're legit because Elon says you're legit, and I have an eye for legit, so you're legit. In order to be legit, you have to train these things. So I'm guessing you've done a lot of cross training. So if you can talk about your training, we can start with that.
Yes, of course. So yes, I started, as I told you, with jiu-jitsu because my dad learned jiu-jitsu. He was my first teacher, so my first sifu, so-called. And then we trained kickboxing and karate. But for my dad, it was always being able to do something because your body structure has to be strong. So your body structure has to be trained. Everything else is technical based. And then in the end, he made the assumption how to now deliver power through your technique. Okay. So that's why conditioning was always a big part. As I told you in the beginning, the conditioning we had as kids just playing around was different. And he started to condition us with throwing the big balls in our tummy or punching us in the tummy and all of this. And for me, I grew up in a nice but very simple neighborhood. So it was all about being tough in the streets with the guys because the girls like the tough guys, not the pleasing guys. So a lot of times I was very afraid or insecure, but I wanted to be around with the big dogs. So that's why I took on any challenge. Sometimes I looked after that like a car accident, like a car crash. But nevertheless, my father told us all the time, everyone can launch a strike or a punch, but only rare people are able to take it. So that's why conditioning for him, and he told us all the time, I don't like that you go outside and fight with other guys. But if you want to be a tough guy, if you want to know how to fight, you only learn it through fighting. So conditioning comes through beatings and not through pleasings. Okay. So, and then I'm not a tall guy. I'm a short guy. And
I told you, I'm 5'6". How tall are you? About the same?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
you look taller on film. You look taller.
And I realized pretty early that all these big guys had an advantage. So I tried to equal out that with aggression. So my training become more aggressive. Everything I tried to do was more aggressive. So I trained more on getting impacted by strikes. So being conditioned and then to be very dynamic, hard, and move out. And because of all these street fights, I realized that I liked the kickboxing style. But I had a lot of friends who were, and back then in Germany, a lot of, especially the Turkish guys or guys from the Middle East, that were great wrestlers.
I was just going to say.
And this guy throws you on the concrete. And and a lot of guys, even nowadays, they don't know. They don't understand that wrestling in a tournament or a mat is totally different than a guy who takes on you for real to just crashes you. So these schools were very vicious, and I saw people having crushed head bones because of this. Because I went to some of these training academies back then, and their trainers, the old school trainers from Turkey, Greece, Kazakhstan, all these regions, Russia, and they taught their students to be a good wrestler on a mat for tournament, but they told them wrestling self-defense, how to crush someone, how to dislocate joints, how to break bones.